All right. Well, first and foremost, I want to welcome everybody for joining us on this Motzei Shabbat. And we have to obviously thank our gracious host, Mr. and Mrs. Hedaya, for allowing us to host this class in their home. And also, and the daughter Jill and Ms. Gadaloff for arranging it. So thank you all, whoever was involved in the arranging of this Shiur Torah. When we first want to deal with Mazal. Mazal, the topic is Mazal and Soulmates. So let's try to figure out, first understand what is the idea of Mazal. And we're going to speak a little bit about astrology. We'll speak a little bit about, I can't say too many words now. Okay, about how to deal with this particular situation. The translation of Mazal, people usually think that it translates into luck. Very good. The actual translation is planet, actually. Mazal actually means planet, or it can also included as constellation, galaxies, and stars as well. A lot of people use it for luck or destiny. In Yiddish, there's a different terminology that I used. It's known as bashart. Bashart, I'm looking for my bashart, my soulmate. So it actually correlates all together very much so. And it's very interesting when you speak to people. You have a very wide range of differences what people believe in. You have some people that don't believe at all of this. They're like, come on, this is all nonsense. There's nothing to do with it. And then you have on the flip side that people swear by it. They go like beyond. They're all they focus on is just this and nothing else. And it's so interesting when you speak to so many different types of people how the differences arise in the different ways of going into this. So first we have to figure out, what does the Torah say about this thing? Does the Torah actually say, is there such a thing as mazalot? Is there such a thing as, and by the way, when you speak about mazalot, you have people that deal with their signs, so which month they were born in, and which constellation they are part of, or what's their personality based on the constellation, and big red X on those things. Obviously, the halakha is, the Kabbalists tell us, even you have the one of the greatest Kabbalists today, Rabbi Yaakov Hillel, wrote a book in Tamimti. He says that you're not supposed to do these things. Don't send your names to go look at the Kabbalists, and don't send it to see if it's good or if it's not. Tamimti be'Hashem Elokecha. You have to be pure with God. Follow the Torah, and that everything else will take care in its place. Don't start making your calculations and figuring out, is this person for me or not, based on different astrological calculations. But when you look at the Torah actually does speak about this. Avraham Avinu was born under the planet of Tzedek, which is Jupiter. And Jupiter, when he was born under that planet, that power of that planet actually was one of the reasons why he wasn't able to have any children, because of that, of the constellation that he was born under. Obviously, afterwards, God went and changed things around that would make it that he would be able to have children. But we see over here that Abraham, the Gemara tells us that Abraham was born under a constellation that didn't allow him. One of the reasons is that Jupiter it orbits the colder regions of the universe, and in order for fertility, whatever, certain reasons, it has to be more in the warmth part of it. And since he was in the colder part, not in the warm part, it had an effect on the childbearing of Avraham and Sarah. The Gemara also tells us that if someone's born under the constellation of Mars, then they're prone to blood. And you can either be a physician. In the olden days it would be bloodletting. That was a very common procedure. You also could be a mohel, also blood drawn. You could be a shochet, a butcher, or you could be a robber that actually unfortunately at certain circumstances actually leads up to a murder as well. So we see over here that the Gemara does speak about astrology, and in fact the Gemara in Moed Katan, page 28, goes and says that the Rava says that the children, length of life, and sustenance, it depends on Mazal. That's what it depends on. And even more, there's another Gemara Hanida, page 16b, that says that there's an angel that goes over to God before the child is conceived. And they go and they say, what will be with this child? Will it be strong or weak? Will it be wealthy or poor? Would it be smart or foolish? So there's a lot of things that are, we call it predestined, sort of like things that are going to happen already before the child is already born into this world. And we see that probably one of the most common examples of astrology and the use of it is in the days of Egypt, in Mitzrayim. We have over here that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was born, the astrologers of Paro and Egypt, they looked into the stars and they saw that the Redeemer of the Jewish nation is born on this day. And they also saw how was his end. His end was supposed to be that he was supposed to end through water. That's why Paro made a decree that all the Jewish baby boys will be thrown, that's why specifically only the boys, will be thrown into the water, because he wanted to bring the end closer. And really they were true. Obviously they were a little wrong in how his end will come about. It's because of the hitting of the rock and supposed to speaking of the rock. But they were able to see this, which means is the Torah says this, meaning that there must be something over here. It's not just somebody with long fingernails and hasn't showered in a few weeks that is just talking and be like, I think you'll find the man in somewhere between the next 1 to 10 years. You know, it's not someone that just throwing, there's actually some sort of science behind this. And the truth is that there are short-term and long-term indicators. If you're able to know how to look into the Kochavim, to look into the stars, you're able to see what the short-term future is and even what the long-term future is. However, very, very big, bold, underline, capitalize, however, that nowadays, the majority of the majority of the majority of the majority, keep on saying majority a few more times, of people do not know the science behind this, the understanding behind this. And anybody, this is the way that I generally like to explain it, that the people that know about this don't tell people that they know about this. The people that do tell people that they know about this, tell people that they know about this. So when you have someone that has psychic on the window, I don't want to get sued from the psychic industry, but don't go to them, because somebody that's advertising psychic is not a psychic. Somebody that, this is a science that is lost. It's a discipline that was lost already for a few hundred years. However, such a thing did definitely, exist. So don't open up your horoscope and figure out if you're going to meet someone special today, or if should invest in a business today, or you should move or do whatever today. Tamim tiyeh b'Hashem Elokecha. Follow God. That's what you're supposed to do. Daily news does not have the answers to your problems. I guarantee you that. Now, even to the extent that we know, okay, so the Torah does understand, speaks about it, but we don't understand how much it actually affects. Astrology actually affected so many cultures in our day and age. So the Me'or Einayim, which was written a few hundred years ago, brings down that there are 7 stars that were crowned the leading stars by God when God created the world, and they have a lot of power. Those stars are the Sun, the Moon, the Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. Now, there are also 7 days of the week. Now, let's try it now. Stay with me a little bit over here. In English, right, we call the first day of the week, in English, is Sunday. Sunday is corresponding to the sun. And in fact, the Me'or Einayim actually goes and brings this down, even before we get to that. We have Sunday is actually corresponding to the sun. Monday is the moon. You can figure out, we'll speak about it soon, but maybe you'll be a little bit advanced for me. Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday is Mercury, Thursday is Jupiter, Friday is Venus, and Saturday is Saturn. Now let's look at English. English, you have already like 3 things over here that just pop out. Sunday, sun. Monday, moon. Saturday, Saturn. These are things, by the way, this is Al-Pi Kabbalah. This is not Al-Pi, whoever created the, these words. Then you look at, anybody here speak French? Nobody? Anybody here speak Spanish?
Sí.
Okay, so Spanish you'll help me. French, okay, I'll try to do it in French. In French, Tuesday is known as mardi. Mardi is Mars for Tuesday. And in French, Wednesday is mercredi. Mercredi is Mercury. You have Venus, which is Friday. In French is I'm going to try this. Vendredi. That's for Venus for Friday. Spanish. Who's a Spanish speaker? Okay. If you know it, fine. If not, it's fine. You know how to say Monday in Spanish?
Lunes.
Lunes. Very good. After Luna, the moon. Tuesday, do you know?
Martes.
Martes, after Mars. Wednesday.
Miércoles.
After Mercury. Very good. You're making my life a lot easier. Friday.
Viernes.
Viernes, after Venus. So we see over here that what we think, like some sort of just weirdos with long hair and, long nails that just didn't figure, that just... No, this is actually influenced so much of our culture that we don't even realize it. The days of even English, French, Spanish, you could go on to a lot of different, languages that this is influenced it by. The Gemara on Shabbat, page 156, actually goes on further and says that is the days, but every hour there's another star that actually influences it. And based on the hour and the day, there's different, so it's not only based on the day that you were born, it's also based on the hour that you were born that it influenced which star was prominent during that hour. Stay with me over here because it's going to get exciting. It's going to get amazing. Just bear with me over here. It's focus. The Me'or Einayim goes and says like this, that out of these 7 stars, the 7 days of the week, 4 are good and 3 are bad. The 4 that are good are the Sun, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. Those are the 4 that present good. And again, if you're born in other, please, I'm begging you, do not think that you're a bad person or anything if you took it on the other days. This is just, again, this is one of the reasons why I haven't spoken about this topic for a very long time. So I hope that it will present it in the right way. The three that can cause damage is Saturn, Mars, and the Moon. These are three planets that could cause damage. There are three commandments that were given by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to override these three effects of these three planets. What are those three commandments? It's Shabbat, Brit Milah, and Rosh Chodesh. Shabbat is corresponding Saturn. What is Saturn? Saturn, Saturday. That is corresponding Shabbat. That overrides the problems, the causes, the bad effects that happens from Saturn. Then you have Mars. Mars is something very interesting. We said originally that what happens if someone's born on Mars? They're prone to blood. They're prone to either become a physician, they're either prone to become a murderer, or they either become a mohel. Different things that are prone to blood. Mars is also a red planet. There's different things that is corresponding to Mars. What is the mitzvah that God gave us to override Mars? Brit Milah, blood. That's also something with Brit Milah. Then you have the moon. The moon is Rosh Chodesh. Very simple, common terminology. So there was three things, Shabbat, Brit Milah, and Rosh Chodesh, that God gave us to override the effects of these three bad effects of these planets over the Jewish nation. Comes the Greeks. We just finished the holiday of Hanukkah. The Greeks come and they said, we want to go and stop three things, three sins, three mitzvot. Three mitzvot. What mitzvot that the Greeks wanted to get rid of? Shabbat, Brit Milah, and Rosh Chodesh. They wanted three. Now, if you ask it, why would the Greeks care about these three things? The Greeks knew that there was a special planetary powers that they had, and the Jewish people overrode those planetary powers, and they wanted to bring the lesson. The non-Jews didn't have this mitzvot. The Jews did have the mitzvot. Let's put this on an evil playing field. The Greeks wanted to go and bring it down, and they told, you think about it, why would the Greeks choose Rosh Chodesh? Shabbat, fine. Brit Milah, I understand. Rosh Chodesh. They took these things particularly in very, very specific reasons. They wanted to override the powers that these planets have on the Jewish nation. They wanted to bring the Jewish nation down to the level that these planets have an effect the same for the Jews and the same for the non-Jews. Then, this is also very, very interesting. You have a difference between the mitzvot between the men and the women. The men were given specific, every single day, 7 mitzvot to override these 7 planets. What are the 7 mitzvot? You have tefillin of the head is corresponding Saturn. You have the tefillin of the arm corresponding the moon. And then you have Brit Milah that's corresponding Mars. Again, the same thing, Brit Milah with the blood. Then every Jewish man is supposed to wear tzitzit every single day. The tzitzit has 4 corners. Those correspond to 4 good sides, which is the sun, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. Now you can ask, what about women? Right? Come on, you got to be fair. What about women? Very interesting. So we have 3 bad planets, Saturn, Mars, and Moon. The women are given 3 special mitzvot. What are the 3 very special mitzvot that a woman are given? Shabbat, very good.
And
Mikveh, Nida, very good. And one more. Very good, Chala. So let's look. Shabbat candles overriding Saturn. That happens on Saturday, and Shabbat, that overrides that. You have Mars, that we said that's blood, that's over Nida, that's going to the mikveh. Then you have Chala, that's the moon. How is Chala related to the moon? Because Chala is the first thing that you do once you're starting to create the Chala, is you separate. It's separated. So it's the first action that you do for the Chala is you separating it. The first planet, the first star in the power of all these 7 stars, which is the closest one? The moon. The moon is the closest one. So just like this is the first as well. So you have over here the women also have very, you think about it, these are very powerful things. I remember, probably shouldn't say this on camera, but I was eating once with my wife many years ago in Sunflower Cafe, right over here on Kings Highway. And I overheard, like 2 tables down, not because I was eavesdropping. I was not eavesdropping. I was focusing on my wife. We were having a conversation, but there were 2 women that were sitting over there, and they were saying, what's the point of mikveh? I'm going to go to mikveh. Do I really need to? I'll tell you the whole story because I know it. Basically one woman was getting married very soon, and they were talking to each other. Should she go to the mikveh? Should she not go to the mikveh? She was like, I'm not going to go. What are you, ridiculous? It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Why do I care about this? And I was like grabbing the tablecloth, and my wife was like, no. And I'm like, I gotta. And she's like, it's none of your business. You stay right here, right now. So I didn't do anything because obviously, it wasn't my place. But when you think about it, people don't understand the power of mikveh. People don't understand the power of challah, power of Rosh Chodesh, the power that the Jewish woman had. They don't understand. What do we do understand? Red strings everywhere. Bad effect of evil eye. The eye, right? Well, in our cars, we'll tie dollar bills everywhere. Which again, I never understood. Because if somebody wants to break into your car, he sees dollar bills hanging around over there, he's gonna break into the car. Mikvah, not interested. Nida, not interested. Red string, shield protective thing. Shabbat doesn't matter. Where are we looking at? What is the focus of our eyes should be what in the Torah? The Torah tells us what this is important, this is not important. Nowhere in the Torah says that you are required to wear a red string. You'll never see, and I've never seen, A Kabbalist, a big rabbi with a red string, a chamsa, some other things going around him. Why not? If it's so powerful, wouldn't the Kabbalist want to wear, a Kabbalist deals with this. Why doesn't he wear this? But yeah, the Kabbalist keeps Shabbat. They keeps kosher, keeps all these things that they need to do. And then these things they don't focus on. Yet you look at the people on the flip side. Nida, chala, Rosh Chodesh, red string. Gotta have it, right? The second the baby's born, Rabbi, come on, slap it on there. Make sure it's wrapped around the keva achel 27 times, not 7 times. We go to the extent, but we focus on the wrong things. The power is right over here. The power is in the Torah. The power to override the bad influence of astrology is right over here, but we focus on the wrong things. Now, the Derech Hashem Ramchal brings down that, how does this work? There is, why did God give powers to these stars, to these constellations, to even the groups of stars? The way that it works is that there is a bridge between the next world and this world. And that bridge, part of that bridge, is the constellations. These are the ways that if a decree is made or something is made, it passes through the stars, through the angels, and then it goes into our world where we are today. The interesting thing here is when you look in the Gemara and you look at the people that were idol worshippers. What were they called, the idol worshippers? Ovdei kochavim. They called the worshippers of the stars. They actually called Ovdei kochavim or mazalot. They were worshippers of the stars and the constellations. Now the question is, why would they consider, idol worship? You bow down to a tree, you bow down to a Buddha, you bow down to something else, the person with many arms. That's why you bow down to constellations. What was it called? Because originally in the Nefesh HaChaim, Chaim Velazher brings down that how did idol worship come into play? Idol worship came into play right in the generation of Enosh. Enosh, what happened was that the people realized that God is amazing, God is great. Now God is going to go and care about me? Like God is going to care about what I say and what I do and what I think? Like that can't be. Must be that, and they understood the power of the constellations. They understood the power of astrology. But they said must be that God gave the powers to the stars, to the planets, to the sun, to the moon, and so on and so forth. And if we want to get something, we have to go through them. So they would go, and they knew how to manipulate the stars, the planets, and the angels that were associated with the stars and the planets. So what they used to do is they used to worship, it was called idol worship, it was known as Ovdei Kochavim. They knew the power that this had, and they went and they worshipped it. Obviously they were wrong, but they worshipped this power. Now, it is very important to realize that if someone, God forbid, has a bad mazal, whatever it is, to each their own, right? But if someone thinks that they have a bad mazal, it's not because they were born in a particular time and because of that they have a bad mazal. It doesn't work that way. How does it work? That God had a decree, a plan for you. You have a specific plan in this world, and your plan is to accomplish X, Y, and Z. In order for you to accomplish X, Y, and Z, you needed to be born in a planet X, Y, and Z as well, and a time frame in X, Y, and Z. Everything had to be exactly. So what happened? It wasn't, people think of it the wrong way, it wasn't that first you were born in a constellation and be like, oh, well, bad luck. That's all you can do. No, rather, it was originally decreed for you to have this particular type of future. This is how you're supposed to live your life. So now that you're supposed to live this life, so now God is going to make you born in a particular day and in a particular hour. Now, one thing any woman that had children could attest to, you can't, be like, well, Tuesday is a good day at 3 o'clock. So, yeah, let's keep it in. So, it doesn't work that way. It's like when the baby comes out, the baby comes out. That's it. It goes when God wanted it to go. So you don't think that, I have a bad mazal because it's my bad luck. Absolutely not. It's a bad mazal or it's a good mazal. You don't know, whatever it is. It comes directly from God. This is the problem that the people in the generation of worshiping idols, of Enosh, they thought that they had the power to manipulate it and that God didn't care about them. Absolutely not. God cares about every single one of us. Every single one has a direct plan, a direct correlation, a direct connection between you and God. And God created you in a particular day with a particular mazal for a particular purpose. The Gemara does say that there is no mazal for the Jewish nation. Now, what does that mean that there's no mazal for the Jewish nation? Really, and we'll see from a few stories, that really there is a mazal for the Jewish nation, but the Jewish people are able to override that mazal. The non-Jews, on the flip side, they're not able to override the mazal. Whatever the mazal is already indicated for them, that's going to happen by hook or by crook. They don't have the 613 mitzvot. They don't have the 613 commandments. They are staying exactly on course for whatever the mazalot, whatever the constellations already predicted for them. However, it's not so simple to read the constellations. I'm not talking about now, when no one knows what they're talking about. Even in the days when they did know what they were talking about, even then it was very difficult to read the constellations. So even then it was very difficult to understand what the future holds for that particular person. Now, if a Jewish person, let's say, has a bad mazal, they are able to switch it to a good mazal, but It's not easy. It's not a simple task. Usually you need a exceptional deed, mitzvah, or overcome an exceptional, temptation. There's something that's got to be like really big that you overcome it, that you're able to overcome your mazal. We see a few stories in the history of, when you look in the Torah, you look at Avraham Avinu. Avraham and Sarah were not supposed to have kids. In the stars, they weren't supposed to have kids. Yet, what happened? They were able to go and change the mazal, and God says, you're above the mazal. He took him above the stars, you're above the mazal, and he was able to go, and Avraham and Sarah were not supposed to have kids, ended up having kids. You have Leah. Leah is another good example. Leah, who was she supposed to marry? She was supposed to marry Esav. Esav, every single day, we know that they had twin brothers. You had Yaakov and Esav, and you had also two sisters. You had Leah and Rachel. So you had the older sister was supposed to marry the older brother, and the younger sister was supposed to marry the younger brother. Who was the older sister? The older sister was Leah. Who was the older brother? Esav. Who was the younger sister? Rachel. Who was the younger brother? Yaakov. Older to older, younger to younger. So you have Leah to Esav, Rachel to Yaakov. But what did Leah do? Leah started asking around. She's realized that everyone's speaking about that. Oh, Leah's going to marry Esav. So she wasn't just sitting over there writing Dear Diary when me and Esav go out on our honeymoon. She was asking around. So what's Esav up to? And what do you think they told him? He's a murderer. He's an idolater. He's not a good guy. He's not in the Bet Midrash. He's not sitting there. He's not doing the best things. So she was like, wait a minute, this is who I'm going to marry? She started going, and it says, "Enaim le'av v'rakot." They were red. Because she was constantly crying, she was constantly praying, she was constantly fasting. She was like, God, please, I don't want this. I don't want this. Meaning that something that was predestined for her, Esav, she kept on crying and praying to God. And what happened? She didn't end up marrying Esav. Who did she end up marrying? Yaakov. But even more so, look how powerful the power of tefillah is. Who married Yaakov first? Leah married Yaakov first, even though she wasn't destined to marry. That is the power that a Jewish person has the ability to go and change the mazal. But don't think that it's simple, don't think that it's easy. But every single one of us do have the ability to go and overcome it. And this is why a Jewish person should never despair, never give up, never feel that there is no hope. There is always hope. There's always something that you can do. However, very important to point out over here, there's a flip side to this. The flip side is that just like a Jewish person could go and change their mazal by doing good, if a Jewish person does bad, if a Jewish person doesn't follow the Torah, if a Jewish person doesn't keep the mitzvot, if the Jewish person doesn't follow all the commandments that God gave, they could have been born with the most amazing mazal. A mazal of panasah, a mazal of children, of happiness, of shalom bayit, of everything amazing, of health and everything. But because they didn't listen to God, this has the ability to flip it on the other side and also cause them to have them a bad mazal as well. Now the Gemara in Shabbat, page 156b, goes and says like this, a story of a girl who actually switched her mazal. And this girl is none other than Rabbi Akiva's daughter. Rabbi Akiva's daughter was, when she was born, the astrologist went over to Rabbi Akiva and said that this girl is going to die on her wedding day. She's supposed to die on her wedding day. Imagine telling that to a father. And what's the interesting part of this is that, as she grew older, there were, I guess, boys that were set up, and the Rabbi Akiva says, fine. She went, and not only did he say fine, they scheduled a wedding date. There was a wedding date that was supposed to happen. If you would, God forbid, lo alachem, lo alanu, we should never hear from this, but if somebody would go and hear that the daughter is supposed to die on the wedding date, this woman, she's never getting married. That's the end of it. That's where it goes. But what's interesting over here is that Rabbi Akiva had such a level of faith in God, and says that we do what we need to do. And what did Rabbi Akiva do? Rabbi Akiva says, okay, they find a good shidduch, and they were supposed to, schedule the wedding date. The wedding date was supposed to happen the next night. And the custom is that the Jewish, Chatan and Kala, they fast on the day of the wedding. So what happened? The night before the wedding, the whole house is, everybody's busy, setting up for the wedding. And they tell the Kala, listen, tomorrow's your wedding. Here's a plate of food. Here, go to your room, eat, go to sleep, get ready for the big day. So she takes a plate of food and she goes to her room. As she's walking to her room, there's a knock on the door. She opens the door, there's a beggar over there. And the beggar's like, please, I'm begging you. I haven't had any food in days. I haven't eaten. Please, do you have something? And she's looking at her plate of food. She's looking at this beggar, and she's like, here. And she gives him the plate of food. He goes, he takes it, he eats his satisfaction, and he leaves. Meanwhile, she goes up to her bed. She, gets ready for bed. She takes out her pin that holds her here, and she used to place her pin in the wall, in a certain hole in the wall. And she placed her pin in a hole in the wall. She goes to sleep. The next night, she wakes up. She wakes up, and she takes the pin out to put it back in her hair. And she takes the pin out, and out comes with it a long poisonous snake. And she screams, and everyone comes running in, and Rabbi Akiva hears about this. And he's like, what happened? What did you do? You know what the first question that he asked? First, what mitzvah did you do? This is what a rabbi doesn't go and start saying, like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to call the installation people, because what's going on here? No. He said there's a reason and a rhyme for everything that God does. So tell me, you must have done something. What mitzvah did you do? So she said, listen, there was a beggar coming here last night. Everybody was so busy preparing for the wedding. Nobody heard about him. I was the only one there. So I figured, I'll give him my plate of food. So I gave him my plate of food. What did Rabbi Kiva say? You quoted a pasuk in Mishlei. He said, tzedakah tatzil mimavet. Here you have that you give charity, it saves you from death. You have the ability to save you from death. Says Rabbi Elia Lapian. He goes and says like this. He says that you think that it was just happened to be lucky that a poor person came the night before our wedding when she was supposed to die? No. God orchestrates everything. That because she had a bad situation coming to her the next day, God gave her an opportunity to give her the merit, the zchut, to be able to go and overcome this bad decree. So what happened? So a poor person came to her home and knocked on her door right when she was going to sleep. Why? Because she needed merit right then and there. She needed merit to override her bad mazal. And because of that, she was able to go and be saved from it. Says Rabbi Elia Laplan, you have to be very careful in your life. You never know when the next time somebody's going to come knocking on your door, or somebody's going to call you for a favor, or there's going to be a temptation for you to sin. And you don't know what God does is God sends you a temptation, a mitzvah, or something that you could do to override your bad mazal in the future. So the next time that you come across something that you need to do, either bad or good, you have to think for a second, who knows if God is sending me this right now to override something terrible that's supposed to happen in a day or two. From that, we learn something very important, that over here we see that the Jewish people are in fact affected by the mazalot. Because otherwise, Rabbi Kiva says, I don't care about this. But Rabbi Kiva, like he did come, into effect saying you must have done something. But what do we see over here? That every single Jewish person, a Jewish man and a girl, has the ability to go and override this bad mazal by doing this certain mitzvah. But it says the Zohar something very, very scary. That says if one does not follow the ways of the Torah, and he does not follow the ways of the commandments of God, then he returns to be under the dominion of the stars. The stars have complete effect on him just like that. He does not have the ability to override it. How do you have the ability to override it? When you follow God, when you follow the Torah, you follow the mitzvot, you follow mazel, you follow what you need to do, you have the power to override any bad mazal that you need to do. So you have to think for a second, if you have something bad going on in your life or something that you want to change, the first and foremost thing that you need to ask is not, do I have enough red strings or dollar bills on my car? The first thing that you need to ask, am I listening to God? Am I listening to the Torah? Am I doing the mitzvot and the halachot that I need to do? If not, then that's what you focus, that's what you need to do to change your mazal. Now it's very interesting when you, just an introduction to what soulmates, what mazalot actually means. But when you look at dealing with now dating, in the dating world is something very, very interesting. And I only see this because people speak to me and I have, from like all angles, and I see something very interesting. That you have people, I'm going to try to say this as nicest way as possible. You have people mediocre at best. That's like giving them bonus credits for personality, looks, and money that they don't have, right? That mediocre at best. But what do they come and they tell me? You know what? I'll tell you a story. But I have a guy, a student of mine, comes over to me one day, and he's like, Rabbi, again, if you understand what this means, fine. If not, then may God bless you. He's like, Rabbi, I can only get a 10 and nothing less. And I told, anybody who knows me knows I'm pretty blunt, which can be problematic at sometimes. And I'm like, what makes you think you deserve a 10? I didn't say this to him, but I'm like, you're probably a 3 or 4 at best. And I'm including money also. And you don't have that. So, like, what makes you think that? But it's something very interesting. You have somebody mediocre, want somebody supreme on the high. Like, why would somebody want your dull personality? Like, why would somebody with good midot, good Torah, good ashkafa, good everything, good family, want to go deal with you? But yet somebody from here wants somebody from here. And you think about it, only in shidduchim. You never sell an object. You never, if let's say somebody's in commerce, if you're going and you're selling an iPhone, you don't expect somebody to pay for your iPhone $43,000. You expect someone to pay $1,000 if it's the newest iPhone, whatever the price going is. Again, on the flip side, you don't expect someone to pay $300, assuming it's a real iPhone. You expect someone to pay around market value. Sale, fine, $800 to $1,100, whatever it is, right? I don't know. I'm an Android guy, whatever it is. So whatever the iPhone price goes for, you expect to pay market value. You have real estate. Someone that's buying real estate. If a property is worth, $5 million, you expect to pay roughly around $5 million. Always you find a mitzvah, you find something that you do, but generally you're not going to buy it for $50,000. But yet, in every single other item in the world, people know they get what they pay for. Yet, when you deal with shidduchim, you have somebody who should ring bells in Notre Dame, and then you have somebody that, is the princess, and they think, my shidduch, Rabbi, come on, set it up. I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to yourself? You think about why, and you know what's interesting? Again, I got to be very careful. But who are realistic in their expectations in the dating world? People, when they realize they have issues, when they realize they have problems, when they realize they have a disability, all of a sudden they're realistic. Everybody else, and by the way, I'm including people who have low self-esteem. I've dealt with people with low self-esteem. They still want the world. I'm like, your diagnosis is wrong. I don't know what to tell you. Bullshit, you're healed. Mazal tov, Yeah, you want to, you want a 10 and you're whatever. So when you go, what's even more interesting is that's the honest truth. But yet, what do we see? Sometimes we see somebody who's a Mazel, somebody who is really a 3, then marries a 10. And then you start thinking, how did it happen? And sometimes people try to figure out, so how did you guys meet? Did you save her life or something? What's going, how did this happen? And the other guy's like, no, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. We got set up and everything worked. Sparks were flying. Everything was amazing. But the way that it works, you see that all the time. That you see people that one person is amazing, the other person is, and you start wondering, how did this work? How did this work? It's so unbelievable. Want to know why? Because God is mezaveg zivugim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who does the zivugim. Now again, don't take this the wrong way. Be realistic in your expectations. You have to do your ishtadlut, your correct ishtadlut. But we see something very interesting over here that the zivugim, the mazal for a person comes directly from God. It doesn't come from whatever you can offer, whatever you think that you have to offer. It comes directly, from God. And if you go and you do what you're required to do, and you do what is important for you to do, then you know that you will get your predestined shidduch. Some people are nervous that maybe I will, get some. I'll lose my zivug. Let's use it that way. I'll lose my zivug. And you have, for example, some women that go and they feel that maybe they're not the most, they feel that they're on the highest level of where they're looking, so they decide they need to cancel, the zivug. I mean, if a zivug cancels because you have a little, pimple growing out, that's not your zivug. If you have another face growing out of your face, then fine. Maybe it's a good idea to push it off. But generally speaking, in order for a zivug to be canceled, it doesn't happen so easy. If something's serious, yes, you could mess it up and you could go and lose it. You had a very interesting story that there was once a young lady who was in some sort of Shabbat situation. I don't know the details of it. And there's a young man who decided that he wanted to date this young woman. And he goes over to a middleman, a shatran, and says, can you set it up? So shatran goes over to this person, and this woman says, absolutely not interested at all. This young man was very, pushy for it. And he says, come on, you gotta give me something. You gotta try. And he kept on pushing very politely. And finally, the middleman, the shatran, eventually convinced this woman to go out with this guy. And this guy, this woman, even when she went out with this guy, she wasn't interested. So she decided that she's going to I don't know if this is the right terminology, bland herself out. Make it he doesn't want, I'm so boring, there's nothing there. And self-sabotage. Yeah, self-sabotaging the situation. And he picked up on it. And in his mind, it was okay, challenge accepted. How guys work. And what happened all of a sudden? Now instead of being a regular date, he gave it his all. He put it all out there. And he, all his abilities, he went and he put it out there. And the girl still said no. Still said no after all that. But he very politely went and he tried to, just give me another shot. Very politely with normal amount of ishtadlut. She decided fine. And now that he realized he had to up his game, so he upped his game. And all of a sudden, she's like, okay, he has some interesting qualities. And again, I'm not saying you should try this at home, whatever it is, but all of a sudden you started realizing there's something going on over here. I actually and long story short is they're married now. they're actually married now to the fact. But when you think about it, how did they get married? If she would have went and agreed to go out with him and just said, yeah, okay, fine, we'll go out. Then what would have happened? He would have been his normal self, she would have been her normal self, and they would have been interested in it. Because what happens in the normal self? You don't, when you're on a date, you don't all of a sudden start sharing all your deepest, darkest secrets. You know, you don't sit on the date and you're like, 1 second, what are you saying? Yeah. And she's like, who are you talking to? I was like, 1 second, I'm getting a phone call. And she's like, you don't have any Bluetooth in your ear. Like, what type of phone call? He's like, no, these are just the voices. 1 second. I don't have my tinfoil hat. I left at home, so just like bear with me 1 second. You don't usually do that on a date. Why not? Because you'll never get married. Now, what happens when all of a sudden, you know, because generally when people are on a date, they're their fake selves. They're not their real selves. Like, goes on and be like, yes, you know, like knife and fork, right? Of course, we always eat pizza with this. And, you know, and then all of a sudden when you get to know them, you know, all of a sudden they're inhaling food, you know, without even swallowing it. But when you look at this situation, he knew he didn't have to be on his regular shidduch game. He had to be on his shidduch game on steroids. He's like, this is not going to happen. So he goes and he ups his game times 1,000. All of a sudden, what happens is, you know, the personality comes out. So the personality came out. All of a sudden, she's like, wait a minute, I actually like this guy. You know, that's what came out. But if it would have been regular, it would have never happened. So the only way that this would have happened is only if she would have said no, and then he would have said yes, and then she would have said no, and then he would have said yes, and then that's how it would have happened, because that's how he would have made it. So we see over here, God takes care of the zivugim. God takes care of the shidduchim. I want to share with you a story. Is there something? Yeah.
On that, but if they were meant to be together, if they were normal, wouldn't they have been together anyway?
We didn't speak about how to lose shidduchim yet. Yes. So before we get into that topic, let's try to. There's an amazing story. Whenever I speak about this, I feel I have to share this. It's a story that I heard from the rabbi involved, and again, some of you heard the story before. So there was a girl, an older girl that. She had her own personal rabbi, and she heard that this rabbi had a Kabbalist coming to his house that night. And she's like, I'm going to meet this Kabbalist because, you know, I got to figure out what's going on with my life. And she comes to the rabbi's house, you know, at that night. She knocks on the door, rings the bell. The rabbi opens in. She walks in. There's the rabbi and the Kabbalist. Now you know, again, like I said before, there are certain Kabbalists that they know a lot by just looking at you, by, let's call it, reading your palm. And again, I have to, like, you know, reading your palm, Tamim Tiyab Hashem Lokecha. Rabbi Akiva is very against this. You're not supposed to go to people that read your palm. And again, people that say that they know how to read your palm, they don't know how to read your palm. Don't know that. People that don't know how to read your palm, maybe they know how to read your palm. Or maybe they just don't know. So there's a flip side. So 99 to 1% chance, right? So go figure it out. So this particular rabbi knew how to read palms. Obviously didn't say that he knew how to read palms, but he knew how to read palms. And somehow this girl found out that he knew how to read palms. And this girl was an older woman and she wasn't married yet. And she wanted to figure out what's going on. So she came in the night when her rabbi was together with this Kabbalist that knew how to read palms. She comes into the house, she goes over to the rabbi and she goes, what does it say? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, come on! I know you don't. Come on, you know. Certain things you don't stand in front of a woman, right? In front of her baby and in front of like whatever she's like does this. So he's like, you know, like they're looking at the palm, and the rabbi that said the story and the Kabbalist that was together with him, the rabbi said that this Kabbalist taught him a few lines of like what to look, and one of the lines he taught him is marriage and childbirth lines in the arm. Because by the way, there is a science behind this. We just don't know it, and people that do it, again, don't say that they know it. But there is a science behind it, and Kabbalistically, there is you know, Kabbalists that do know how to deal with this, but again, don't do it. So they're both looking, you know, she's doing this, and she's doing this, and so they're looking, and they're looking at her arm, and her palm, and she doesn't have a line for marriage, and she doesn't have a line for children. And they're looking at it, and then they're looking at each other, and then they're looking at the line, and they both see what they're not seeing. And they're looking back and looking at this, and she's like, so when am I going to get married? You know, like, when is this going to happen? And, you know, the rabbi didn't want to answer. He's like, what he's going to say? There's no lines. It's not going to happen. So he looks at the Kabbalist, you know, like, diverting it to him, and he says, Bezrat Hashem soon. So she's like, thank you very much. She goes, and she leaves. And you know, the rabbis and are speaking about each other, and they're like, you saw something? He's like, no, I didn't see anything. So he's like, why did you say that she's going to be Bezrat Hashem soon? He's like, what am I going to tell her? That she's not going to get married? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? So they left the story at that. A few months go by, And her rabbi, the non-Kabbalist, the regular rabbi, gets a phone call from her. And she had a very, very difficult test that she was dealing with. And she goes to the rabbi and she's like, I don't know if I could pass this test. And the rabbi gave her the instructions on how to pass the test. And she went and she overcame her situation, her particular situation in that test. And that's it. The story ended over there. A few months later go by, and all of a sudden she calls the rabbi. She says, Mazal tov, I'm engaged.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, wait, does the guy know? Are you sure? Like, you're really engaged? And she's like, yeah, I'm engaged. You know, he's like, Mazal, Mazal tov, it's amazing, it's unbelievable, Mazal tov, it's so unbelievable. And she goes, and not only she got engaged, she actually got married. And when the rabbi told me this story, she was actually in her 8th month in pregnancy. Wow. You know, she did not have a line, not for marriage, not for children. In her palm, both of them saw it. Yet somehow she went and she changed it. And I went and I even spoke to somebody who knows how to, read lines. And I said, why don't you, do it? He says, what am I going to do? He says, if there's one person that goes and I read their lines and then they say, one amen yehesh merabah. They say, one amen, then the whole lot, everything changes. It's constantly, like moving. Exactly, everything changes. But Jewish people have the ability to change it. Non-Jewish people, it's directly the same. So a Jewish person able to, here you see a woman that had not a line for marriage, not a line for children. Yet, when the rabbi was saying over this story, she was married and she was 8th month in pregnancy. That's the level that a Jewish person has the ability to change. So what do we learn from here? You never, ever, ever give up. A Jewish person never gives up. A Jewish person always has the ability to go and overcome, even if something is bad. Even if something is destined for them to be wrong and destined for them to be terrible, never give up. Even if you're 150 years old. You could still get married. You could still have children. Abraham had a child by 100 years old. So, however, now we have to go and figure out, is it possible to lose your soulmate? Is it possible to go? Let's say something is predestined for you. Can you go and can you mess it up? And the answer is, unfortunately, yes. God gave each and every single one of us free will. And we have the ability to choose what we want. And there's a few ways that a person could go and lose their soulmate. And one of the ways is that they can be too picky. Some people are too picky. Like, a student of mine that I had, that he said that he's only going to marry, a supermodel. Anybody else, not even on the table. So I told him straight to the face. I'm like, you're going to be single for a very long time. And he's like, so be it. And I was like, this is a weird conversation. I don't know what to tell you. But if someone's too picky, then they have the ability to have to go and to lose their soulmate. You have also people that they push it off. No, first I have to make panasa. And then I have to buy a few buildings. And then I have to figure out where I want to live. And then I have to buy the house and design it. And then I have to get married. And then the woman has to redesign my house, resell my buildings to buy her jewelry. And then whatever it is, a circle of life, right? Whatever it is that people go on. But like, wait a minute, you have an obligation that you need to do. You have to go and you have to follow the ways of the halacha. You could go and a person could lose their soulmate. And I want to share with you something. They came to Rabbi, to the Stipler Gaon. The Stipler Gaon goes, and there was older singles that used to come to him and says, Rabbi, where's my zivug? Where's my bashat? Where's my mazal? Where's my soulmate? He says, I'm old. Where's everybody? And you know what the Stipler said to them? Said that they were sent to you, but you rejected them. You had the ability to go and reject your soulmate. They came to you, but you rejected it. So what? It's on God all of a sudden? Who says maybe it's your fault? Maybe it's your fault that you went and you rejected it because you were too picky and you were this and you need this and you particular. Again, there are certain things that you need to be picky with. That's why you have to speak to your rabbis. You have to speak to your mentors of what and how and I'm supposed to go and I'm supposed to date and what's something that it is a red flag and what's something is not a red flag. I spoke to an older single and they told me they only want someone that speaks Russian. I'm like, why? So they can converse with my parents.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, they need to converse with you. Parents is secondary. You be the translator over there. Like the last person. He's like, wait a minute, that's not like a red flag. I'm like, what? A red flag? No, that's not a red flag. This is why you're single. Like this, maybe this and a bunch of other reasons, but this is one of them for sure. Like what? Because they don't speak your parents' language? You have people that they go and they want to be in a part of a certain community. And I agree with that in the beginning. So let's say a person is younger and they want somebody from that community, fine. But if they're getting older on in age, and again, what that means is to each one in themselves, but if they're getting older on in age, then stop worrying about only for yourself, stop worrying about only your community. So if, let's say you're Sfaradi, so instead of figuring only Persian, okay, so go and open up to all Sfaradim. Does it have to be only Persian? My parents are going to sell me. You're not marrying your parents. You're marrying this person. It's very important. You have to realize that your parents are not getting married to this person. You are getting married to this person. You have to figure out what is it that I want. So if in the beginning you wanted the same custom, Hazaka Baruch, may God bless you, and figure it out the way. But if it gets older, later on in the years, and you're not finding somebody, you got to move on. I spoke to a friend of mine who was, he's in his 40s, and he was very particular in what he wanted. And I shared with him this story. I shared with him, the story that somebody once went over to the rabbi, and 2 weeks before Sukkot, and he says, I want to buy a beautiful kosher etrog and a beautiful, the highest level of the highest level of etrog and love and everything. And they said, okay, good job, chazak baruch. And then that was 2 weeks before Sukkot. All of a sudden, there's a week before Sukkot, but you still didn't find a etrog, you still didn't find a lulav. What are you going to do? So I'm still looking for the best. So fine. Then finally comes Erev Sukkot, the day before Sukkot, and they're like, I'm still looking. The rabbi says, forget about the best. Find someone that's kosher and just go with it. Now again, how do you relate that to marriage? It's another whole other thing. But if somebody's getting older on and they're very particular in certain things, you have to figure out, what am I particular with? Am I messing myself up? Am I saying something that maybe I shouldn't be saying? Am I being picky? If you're going and you're a religious person and you want someone religious, that's not something you should be picky with. But if it's somebody that lives in a certain zip code or has a certain, last name, maybe that's not your zivug. I spoke to a student of mine, and he told me he's only married from his community. And I asked him straight out, what happens if your bashert, if your soulmate is not from your community? And he answered me one of the saddest answers that I ever heard. He says, then I won't get married.
Wow.
That's what he told me. He said, I'm not going to get married. Baruch Hashem, now he's married. But it could have turned a lot sour, a lot worse. But we see over here, you have the ability to lose your soulmate. Who said that God decided that you're going to marry somebody from your community? Who said? In the beginning, you want to choose it? Fine. But if you're not getting dates, and if that's not working out for you, branch out. It's just like business. If you're not working out over here, you start branching out. You have to do your normal hishtadlut that you have to do. Says Rabbi Eliyahu Lapian, he goes and it says in the name of Rabbi Salanter that, sometimes it's good that God delays your zivug. Why could it be that good that someone delays your zivug? Especially for people that are bal tshuva, that are coming closer to religion. Because that's for sure. That's included in this. That sometimes people are, in a sense, that they're not there yet. They're not, the perfect person that they could be for their soulmate. It's something that I say over and over again, that people always look for the right soulmate. And I say, instead of looking for the right soulmate, be the right soulmate. Become the right soulmate. People are like, I want someone with perfect mitzvot. I'm like, you get angry if someone cuts you off. Like, why do you deserve someone that has, perfect mitzvot? You have to go and you have to become a perfect person. You want a perfect person, you become perfect. And then you'll get a perfect person. That's what the Gemara says. You have to go and you have to deal with it the way that you are, the level that you are. But says Rabbi Salanta, and Rabbi Eliyahu goes and says that in the generation of the Tanaim HaMaraim, the days of the Gemara and the Mishnah, they had a certain amount of siyata d'shmaya, help from heaven. But in our generation, this is talking about over a few hundred years ago, in our generation, God helps us more because we're more distant from the Torah. We're more distant, so God helps us more. Now, certainly in our generation, where we're even further away than a few hundred years ago, that if you're going and you're keeping the Torah, God will assist you. And even more so if someone's a bal tshuva, if someone's coming closer to God from a life that they weren't close to God, then certainly the God will help you out and go and guide you to go and find your zivug, your soulmate. But you have to be very, very careful. You have to think about it that the way that you're supposed to do your zivug, the way that you're supposed to choose your zivug is the way like melech. Melech is a king. What's a melech? Melech is first the moach, first intellect, then the lev, then the heart. Melech is mem, lamed, chaf, and the chaf. So you have the melech, the moach, the lev is the heart, and then the kaved is the liver. The moach, that's the intellectual aspect of it. Then you have the heart, the emotions. Then you have the liver, that's the desires. The way that you're supposed to choose your soulmate, intellectually does this make sense? Then you go to the heart, do I have an emotional connection? And then you go to the desires, am I attracted? Yeah, thank you. Really, what happens nowadays, it works the other way around. First it goes from the desires, am I attracted? Then let me figure out if this person is on par with my emotions. And then hopefully, my emotions are so cluttered by my desires and my emotions that I don't even think about intellect until it's, 5 years later in therapy. So the way that it's supposed to be is melech. You're supposed to be a melech. That's why Bilam, what did he try to do? He tried to curse the Jewish nation with kalem. instead of thinking like a Jew is supposed to with melech, with moach, lev, and kaved, he says kalem, which is directly the backwards of that. Kaved, lev, and moach. He wanted to reverse the thing. So we have to go and override that, and we have to go and think really the right way. The right way is you go and you speak to your parents, you speak to your rabbis, you speak to your mentors, you say, is this person right for me? Intellectually, does this make sense? Now that it makes sense, emotionally, do I connect with this person? And after, am I attracted to this person? Again, all these three things have to fall in line, but a person has to think about it in the right sense. So when Bezat Hashem, when a person goes and thinks about it in the right sense, and deals with it in the right sense, and goes and follows the way of the Torah and mitzvot, then Bezat Hashem, only good will happen to that person. Okay, open up for questions. I'm nervous to say open up the questions, but open up for questions. Yes?
Would it be better to just work on fixing everything, or should we now look up our fortune to see what we need to fix?
Okay, so definitely don't look at your fortune, because we don't know how to look at that fortune. So when you look at the fixed things, yes, you should fix, but you fix things internally. Every single person knows what they need to fix themselves. They know what they need to work on. They know what they need to eat. The truth is that sometimes we're like, yeah, I'm a pretty good person. But like when you're honest, you do like, like an honesty session with yourself. I don't know, whatever that's called, like what is it? Cheshbon HaNefesh is obviously. But when you're like really true to yourself, you'll be like, okay, wait a minute, I need to work on X, Y, and Z. That's what you should work on.
You shouldn't look up when we were born.
Don't look at when you're born. Don't look at when your chatan is born. Don't look at all these things. Tamim tiyeh l'Hashem Elokecha. Don't send your name to Kabbalists. Don't send it. Just tamim tiyeh. If everything makes sense, your parents are in agreement, your rabbis are in agreement, Mazal tov. Everything else doesn't worry. Obviously, always work about becoming a better person, fixing yourself. Don't go into a marriage thinking that I'm going to fix him or I'm going to fix her. You fix yourself, and then B'ezrat Hashem, they'll fix themselves also. We work together. But the main thing is you have to go and fix yourself and realize what you need to do. If you need to fix in the Torah and the mitzvot, you need to fix in character traits, which definitely needs in a marriage, then work on those things. So the way that it works with Hishtadlut and Nishiduchim is that you have to do normal Hishtadlut and Nishiduchim. Normal is a very good question. Normal is proportional to a person. Normal is proportional to yourself. So let's say you would go and what's your hishtadlut that you do for parnasah? So you have to figure out what level you are on. And the level that you are on and the hishtadlut that you do for everything else is the hishtadlut that you should do for the shidduchim. So if you go and you say you're learning Torah, let's say his guy's learning Torah all day, he's doing all, and he does it, everything comes to him. Then he could worry about that his wife is going to knock on the door and says, "Hi, I'm your wife. When do you want to get married?" But the general population, if you're going and you're doing the normal hishtadlut for your parnasah, for your health, for everything else, you're going to doctors, then just like you're doing normal hishtadlut for everything else, the same thing applies for shidduchim. Hishtadlut in emunah and bitachon works proportional. So if you're proportional, if your level is here, that's the level that you need to do over here. So everybody has a different level of hishtadlut. So generally speaking, the hishtadlut that a person needs to do is meet with shatchanim. Go on dates. Yes, that's required. You have to meet the people. And sometimes you get hurt, and sometimes, yes, unfortunately it happens. But that's the normal hishtadlut for the general population. I thought you were going the wrong way. Yes?
So, you know how we say Meshanem Makom, Meshanem Mazal? But on the other hand, you could also change your midot. Like, so how do you know when you're just like
what
running?
does that mean?
Like, is it okay to think that I'm in a streak of bad luck and maybe I should do something completely physically different and not just work on?
Definitely. If you have the ability to go and change yourself, if I'm getting your question,
well,
right?
Like sometimes you can work on your midot and everything, but like we also have something. Is it in the Gemara? Meshanem Makom, Meshanem?
Yes. There is a very, very common thing, Meshanem Makom, Meshanem Mazal. That if you change your place, you change your mazal. There are some people, and we have seen this with businesses. You have some businesses. I don't want to start calling out names. You have some businesses that they open up one after another. You see this, locally. I'm in Kings Highway, right? You see some businesses, they open up and they close. They open up and they close. They're like, what's Mishnah? There's something wrong with this mazal of this place. Then they change it, all of a sudden they're successful. So definitely there is a concept, Mishneh Makom, Mishneh Mazal. But then what's your question?
Well, no, because it's a very thin line, because you can always, you can look for a relocation cure every time, And
No, so don't run away from your problems and just like, oh, it must be I'm not getting married here, let me move. But really what you should do is, Mishneh Makom is also Mishneh your own place. We're all comfortable in our zone. So not only do we have to move physically, we also have to move in our spiritual, emotionally, and intellectually aspects as well. That's also Mishneh Mazal. If you change who you are, you change it. The Rambam says that when you do Maimonides says if you do tshuva, you could even change your name because you're a different person. If you're a different person, you have different mazal than you had before. So yes, Mishneh Makom, Mishneh Mazal, sometimes makom is a bad mazal, but also sometimes your makom is a bad mazal as well.
Your makom meaning
who you are as a person.
Your spiritual level. Right.
Yes.
So what are you saying that Hashem delays your zivug?
Sometimes God delays your zivug so that you're like on a path for like growth, for example, let's say a Baal Tshuva. So if they would get married all of a sudden on their beginning process, then they would meet someone like X, Y, and Z. But all of a sudden they're on like a fast track to like in 6-7 months, all of a sudden there's somebody else. So God sometimes delays it to become, because this is who you ought to be.
But there's two people to event.
Right, and who says the other guy is not also doing it? Or who says the other guy is not already there at that level and he's waiting for you to get there? And really on your level right now, he would never date you. But now all of a sudden that you grew and you became who you are, now all of a sudden you're on the radar. So it goes in both ways. You had a guy that was touring a mental institution. And this guy's touring this mental institution and he comes by the first room. And the first room, there's a guy that is going and is banging his head against the wall and he's screaming, Rachel, 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 Rachel. And he's pulling out his hair, Rachel, Rachel. And the guy said, what happened to this guy? So the guy the guy who's leading the tour, he says, this guy, he fell so in love with the girl Rachel. And she dumped him and she did no interest in him. And because of that, he went crazy and now he's all day screaming, Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. He's like, oh, I feel so bad. Wow, look at this guy. They go to the next room, he looks into the window, he sees another guy banging his head against the wall. He's like, Rachel, 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 pulling out his hair, Rachel. He's like, this guy, what happened? How many girls does this girl date? So he's like, no, this guy, he says, like, he actually married Rachel, and then he ended up, in here. So what happens is, the Gemara says, that if somebody goes and prays, I want to marry Rachel, I want to marry Rachel. You're not supposed to. But what happens if someone goes and marries somebody? The power of prayer that God can make you marry that person. But what happened to the other person? Shimon is supposed to marry Rachel, not Reuven. What happened to Shimon? So sometimes what it could happen is God will make it that, yes, Reuven prayed. Now Reuven unfortunately is going to go, and again, this is only a hypothetical, a possibility. Reuven will now die or divorce or whatever it is, and now Shimon will marry his correct zivug. So there is ways, there's free will that is implemented over here, of what you need to do. And obviously, because Shimon had to go through that, it's God orchestrates everything, in his infinite, divine plan. But there is a possibility that someone will marry the wrong zivug, and then God could go and make it right. And the question is, how to make it right? So there's different ways. There's also ways to make it right that if somebody got married, this is not what I want someone to come out of. If someone got married, that was the right zivug. Don't think about it, now I'm going to die because my wife is a witch. Don't think about that. You married, that's your zivug. That's who you need to marry to. If it's difficult, by the way, you should know that zivug doesn't mean it's easy. Zivug, mazal, doesn't mean that your life is going to be blissfully everything amazing. It means that God orchestrated that man A marries woman A. Oh, but it's not going to be easy. That's not always everyone's tafkid. Everyone has a specific mission in their life. Sometimes they need a difficult woman. Sometimes they need a difficult husband to go and to get. Obviously, there are certain times where divorce is necessary. But just because something is difficult doesn't mean that you didn't get the zivug hagon. You didn't mean that you get the wrong zivug. You have to do whatever it is that you need to do. If you need therapy, you go to therapy. If you need to fix your midot, you go to midot. You need to do therapy yourself. Whatever it is you need to do, you need to fix yourself. And B'ezrat Hashem, that will work it out. And even if you think you may have gotten the wrong thing, God has a way of His infinite wisdom and able to go and manipulate, and even in ways of gilgulim and ibur gilgulim, which again, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, fine. If anybody doesn't know, then just leave it. That God could make your zivug a right zivug. But once you delve into these things, you start getting a little bit confused on what your purpose is. What you need to do is be the best person that you could be. And once you're the best person that you could be, you answer all problems. You're going to get your soulmate, you're going to get zivug kifi ma'asav. Yes, God goes and makes sure that if, let's say, somebody was destined to marry a big tzaddik, but this girl wasn't the level of a big tzaddik. So what? The tzaddik is going to marry somebody who wears pants? No, of course not. So they're going to go and they're going to rearrange the situation. Obviously, it's going to have to be arranged, and that's a way of losing somebody. The way that you lose somebody is if you're not on the level of the spiritual level that you need to be. Your soulmate is on one level, and you're on way over here. Then it's a big problem. Then you're not going to lose that. So really, you could connect both of them to the same thing.
So freedom of choice, you can lose.
Freedom of choice, you could, yeah.
Who was meant for you. So there are several. So now I'm at one level. I'm going to find a guy who is not religious or anything like that, and God's going to give the religious girl the better guy.
Right. So he's saying, is there a second level? Yes. So that's why there's many.
There's not just one person that you're sitting there and you're waiting for him.
There is one person that you're meant to be with, and the majority of the time you'll find that person. Majority of the time. Obviously, you have free will. You can mess it up. We all know people that mess up their lives. So right? Rehab is full of those people. I'm sorry.
And then how come the majority will find the person? How is that?
How is it the majority find the people?
Yeah.
And then what? And then you're going to say they have bad marriages? Is that
no,
okay.
Nothing like that.
How is it that God? Because there was a woman. There was a
like she said, like somebody could be religious, then you could marry somebody less religious, and then how could that? Yeah, like,
God, there was a woman that went over, there's a very famous midrash, a woman goes over to a big rabbi and says, what does God do since the 6 days of creation? God created the world in 6 days. Now what does he do all the day? And you know what, so says Rabbi Yossi, what does God do? God mizaveg zivugim. God is making matches all day. He's like, God is making matches all day? I can do that so simple. She was a very wealthy woman. She had 1,000 men servants, 1,000 female servants. She says, marry women. She started marrying off men and women. The next day she had a line out her door. This one had a broken arm, this one had a broken eye, this one had a broken foot, this one had a broken this, right? And he says, what, what's going on over here? He says, I can't marry this woman, whatever it is, I can't be with her. I can't marry this guy's abusive, I can't do it. She goes over to the rabbi and says, now I see how wise what you're saying is, that God is mizaveg zivugim. I thought it's so simple, just everyone just marry whatever, it doesn't matter. But really, what does God do? God orchestrates everything. So every time that you mess up something, God moves around all the pins. Can you mess it up? Yes. What's going to happen to you? May God have mercy of your soul. I don't know what to tell you. But the way that we know, the Torah says that God to be arranged. When you came into this world, you're a part of a half a soul. There's a female part and a male part. And when you get married, you come together. Can you mess it up? Most definitely. What happens then? Okay, then you have different situations that have to deal. And God could still manipulate it and work it out that everything should still go well as, to the best level that it's possible. But we have free will, and our free will has the ability to override even our zivug. But that's only when we go above and beyond. If we do everything that we need to do according to halakha, we're going to get our zivug. And if God said this people and this person should go and get married, there's a reason why they should get married. And God allowed it to happen. Again, you could mess it up. There was a story with Rav Moshe Feinstein that he was Mesadel Kiddushim. He was officiating the wedding. And the Chatan goes and makes, he says the verse that he's supposed to say, and he tries to put the ring on, the woman sticks out a finger, and she tries to put the ring on her finger. And the ring drops down and rolls down. And everyone's like, oh, it's not a good sign, Mazal, not a good sign. So he picks up the ring, he's like shaking. He says the verse again, and he puts it on a ringer again. This time it falls out again. And everyone's like, stop the wedding! It's not meant to be. I object. There's something wrong over here. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, what Moshe Feinstein says, no, go and get married. Why go and get married? Because every single person is supposed to get married to a particular person at a particular time. And when was that time? It was a few seconds later. So God made him drop the ring three times. Not because it wasn't meant to be. Don't start reading signs. Don't become the major sign. Be like, okay, well, he came 5 minutes late, and my gematria of my name is like, whatever, and you start figuring out, must be not for me. Relax. You do what you need to do. When you do what you need to do, then God will take care of you. Once we start going into too much calculations, then we're trying to play God. When we try to play God, we fail. Why? Because we're not God. And we can't play God because we're not God. And if we would be God, we wouldn't be God. We wouldn't be here. Whatever it is. Long story. We're not. So, long story short, do what you got to do, and God will take care of you.
I have a question.
Oh.
I don't know, my mom told me this, but I don't know if she's very superstitious at times with her thinking, and she said, oh, when you're at the chupan, the chatan doesn't break the cup on his first try, it's a sign also.
That's the same thing.
Not a sign. He's nervous. He's been fasting all day. Relax. It's probably a hard glass.
I have a question. How many dates should you go on to see?
Different person. How many dates you're going is an excellent question. It depends on the person. My nephew went on 4 dates in Israel. Now he's married. I know people that went on 56 dates. It depends on a person. It depends on the person. You have to be, that question is very particular to that particular person, how the person feels. Now again, after a year, you shouldn't be like, well, I'm not sure. I'd be like, no, then then you have undecisive issues, and that's why you're not sure. Not because it's really not sure. You're someone who can't commit. But if it's like a difference between 15 and 25 or whatever it is, whatever. If you tell you, depends on the person. Yeah, some people 15 dates is what they need. Some people need 10. Some people need 4. Some people.
No, in the beginning when you're going out with a guy and whatever, you're just trying and you want to see how many times should I go out with him.
You're asking how many times before I should say.
Until you see if you like
until until you're giving up.
Get married and go out. I'm saying
Until you say no.
Until you say yes or no to see.
So that's a really hard question to answer based off hypotheticals, because it depends on the scenario. Because some people will be like, well, it could be attraction, then it could be midot, then it could be torah hashkafa. So it could be different things that are. So some things are red flags, some things are not red flags. Some things I say, like for example, with attraction, I always tell people one date you can't tell. Pictures you definitely can't tell. People. I would say at least 3. Because personality comes together with attraction.
Oh, you mean if you're not attracted to them, you should give it again?
Yeah.
Okay, because if
Yeah, if everything else matches up and you're like, if your attraction,
gorgeous and then
right, that the flip side also, right. So if somebody is like completely not
His personality
attracted,
can make him attracted to
Exactly.
where he dates, you're saying.
exactly. So we have to be true. We can't just be so shallow. We are a shallow generation. We have to
But
be.
attraction is important.
Attraction is very important.
So if you're on a first date and intellectually you see that you don't match and it's not clicking and you see that you're
If
not
it's so this is how you have to understand. If it's something that's absolutely no shaykhs, like it's something that's out of the blue, the guy can't do math, right? He can't do like, you know, I have $10. What's a 10% tip? Like if he can't do something simple, you know, like that, and you're doing advanced calculus, you know, in your head, then yeah, you know, maybe it's something that you talk about. But if intellectually the guy doesn't look as bright as you, first of all, people don't open up, especially girls, don't open up right away. It takes time to open up. So you don't really know the true person until you're out on a few dates with them. But if it's something out of the blue that there's no way, like he comes out with a cane and he's like limping like this, you know, and he has another head growing out of his back, and you're like, I don't think I'm attracted to him. I don't think that a few more dates, you know, even if he could be Einstein and Shakespeare at the same time, I don't think it's going to change. So there's something that's way out of the blue, and there's something that's like, I don't know.
What if Hashkafa doesn't match regarding this one?
So hashkafa doesn't match is also very important, and you have to see how much a distance is it from. Like it's all relevant. There's some people that like they want a guy who wears white shirt and black pants. Like that's what they want. And you know, like okay, fine. So he wears white shirt with black lines, you know, or black buttons. And be like, no, absolutely not. This guy's a guy. You know, like you know, like. So again, you got to be realistic. What the hashkafa is. Then you have somebody who's like hashkafa. They're learning in yeshiva all day. And the girl wears pants and whatnot, and obviously that's not going to match. So everything is very relevant. It's very hard to answer these questions because they're very broad, and everything is very, very particular. You have to find somebody that you can speak to and you can deal with and say, okay, listen, you know me, or if you don't know me, then this is me, and this is the situation. Is this something that is a red flag? Is this something that I should continue dating? Is it something that I should give it another chance? Is it something that I should just drop right away? Yes. Absolutely. 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 If you are not on the same religious level and it's way off, that's a red flag. Absolutely. Then change. Don't change for me, change for you. Change, come back to me in 2 months. Let me see what you're doing. I've had a girl that I was dealing with, you know, a student of mine, that also, she was dating a guy, and the guy wasn't religious, and she was religious. And I deal with children that come from those type of families, where one parent is religious and one parent is not. The kids are so confused. Yeah. 1 week they keep Shabbat, 1 week they don't keep Shabbat. Can you blame them? You know, the father is sitting there with a hat and jacket saying Kiddush, the mother's watching TV.
What if you meet someone that's more religious or less religious, and they say, I'm going to grow?
Everybody says they're going to grow. It depends what they be like. I'm a spiritual person. You know, like, what does that mean? You know, like, are you religious? No, but I'm spiritual. I'm like, what? Like, when you're high? Like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that mean you're spiritual? So you have to see a person for who they are right now. Don't, and this is very important, don't go and marry a person because of who they will be. You know, it's a trap that unfortunately women tend to fall more than men, because a man goes to a woman and says, I'm going to marry her, she will never change. A woman goes to a man, I'll marry him and he'll change. Really, they're both wrong. They both say exactly the way they are. So when you marry somebody, you have to marry somebody you're okay with who they are at they are. If you're not, then make them, or they shouldn't make them. They should become who they really ought to be, and then if it works out, then it works out. But again, a lot of these questions, I don't want you to take these, information and just like plug it into your thing. Ask. A lot of these things are the nuances in these questions, every single nuance will make a world of a difference. So even though this is general guidelines, you should still utilize your own rabbi, your own person that you deal with, and how to ask these questions to figure out if this is correct or if this is not correct. If there's something that I should stop or something that I should continue with. Because there's a lot of things that even though what I say may appear as red flags, in some situations may not be red flags. And some things that I didn't say red flags really could be huge red flags.
Back to stinginess, right? So let's say if we can't tell according to the check, do you have any suggestions of like ways we can check with that to check? Like, to check if he's stingy. Like let's say going on 5 dates, 5th date and on. How can we see?
You have to be very perceptive, really. That's the truth is. Like sometimes you have to really be perceptive. Now, and one thing I'll tell you, I don't know if I said this recently. Definitely said this recently. I don't think I said it on camera. Maybe I did. That when there was a girl who was going out on a date with a guy, and she wanted to test him to see how his anger was. So he's driving on the road, and he stops at a red light. She leans forward. She takes out the keys. I guess what type of car? Before push button, right? She takes out the keys and she throws it out the window. She doesn't say a word. The guy is sitting over there. He's looking at her, and he's looking. He doesn't say anything. He gets out of the car, picks up the keys, puts it in the ignition, turns it on, and continues driving.
Wow.
And then she's like, by the way, that was a test, and you passed. And he responds back to her, by the way, you failed. I'm taking you home. So don't go testing men, all right? That's the lesson that we learned from this. Don't try to figure out how are you going to be stingy. Hey, by the way, what do you think about Chanel? Yeah. Gucci? No? Oh, yeah. Hermes is calling out my name. What should I do? Don't test, the guy. You have to be perceptive in how you go and how you figure it out.
So hard.
It is.
I have a tip. Can I have a question?
Yeah, let's go.
Tefillah is right. Of marriage.
She only answered.
You come together and you're supposed to be finding midot in marriage. So what if you find the guy who has a little bit of an anger problem, or the girl who happens to be very materialistic, or whatever, you have their own midot. You come together, aren't you supposed to work together on the, if a guy's stingy, the woman's going to be very generous. And through marriage, you help one another. She helps him, or she helps him on his anger.
Right. So if it's something that you...
But I'm saying, doesn't God put that together?
Sometimes yes, sometimes yes.
So then, but if, again, I'm married, so I'm just saying, I'm thinking of my daughter. I'm just stingy with. So what I'm saying is if my daughter's going out with someone, I might see these little type of
different things.
flaws in them. Am I going to tell him, no, don't have no out with him?
I'll tell you first and foremost, because the way that you asked the question, as a mother or a father, you have to be very careful how you influence the shidduch. So you have to be very careful what you say and how you say it. In general, once a couple is married, I'm very against of parents getting involved in anything.
No, I'm saying before.
So I'm saying even before, really could. So
I think it's every
it's every computer. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So if you see a red flag and you're not sure about it, then you could ask more questions about it, as opposed to putting in her eyes that her guy that she's dating or her future husband is really flawed and this is a problem. So once you know that there is an issue, then you could decide, okay, how big is this issue? And if it's, let's say, everyone is stingy to a certain extent, right? Let's be honest, we're Jews. Right? We like a deal. Okay? That's just the way that we're made. All right? Because, if we can buy something 50% off, we'll buy it even if we don't need it. Because it's 50% off. 75% off, forget about it. We're buying two. So when you're going and when you see something, again, you have to be very careful and very meticulous. Is it a red flag in your eyes? Is it a red flag that you see as a potential red flag for her situation? So you have to be very, very, very careful, and you have to really look at the nuances. So sometimes red flags are not really red flags, and sometimes there is. And once you bring it to someone's eyes, that's all they're going to see. By the way, this guy seems a little stingy. And then one day, 7 years later, he's going to go and then he's not going to tip somebody the way that he should have tipped him and be like, I knew it, stingy all along. No, this guy tipped, 45% for everybody. And all of a sudden, one day, he tipped 10%. Oh, may God have mercy on his soul. He's a stingy person. No, because you have to be very careful how you go and you introduce these certain doubts or issues to your daughter or your son in these particular situations. If there's an issue, then obviously say, you got to run away. If there's a need to run away. But if you're not sure, make sure that you're sure or as most sure as you possibly can before you bring up the situation. Okay, make sense? Good? Good?
Can I ask you, what if
Yes.
the guy is very nice to you, but then you see anger to a widow?
I am very, very, anger is very bad. Very bad. It results in abuse. I deal in the public, so I can't, again, I don't want to get all the people that have anger issues not married, but if people that come to my classes or my students, I tell them don't deal with people with anger issues. Guys, girls, whatever it is, they run it far away.
Can I answer a question on Mazal?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to, from both ends of it. It says that we should be tam. We should be, follow Hashem simply, not trying to make, have relations. Also, it says that Hashem, like by Balak and Bilam, it says that Hashem loves us because we don't do astrology and things like that. And then you have a lot of contradiction. We have the Sefer Yetzirah. We have the Ibn Ezra new astrology. Shmuel Hakatan, right? He also he knew so there are a lot of times that I think also the Tanya, right? They bring it down a lot about which month governs which thing, and and all those things. So where's the line of let's say a person were to know how to, let's say, do compatibility by looking at two people and based on not simple thing, not like, oh, you're born this day and that. But they really know how to do it with ascendant and certain aspects and things like that. You can tell compatibility and things like that. Is that avodat zarah?
So if you go to a Kabbalist, if you know how to do this, you're not going to ask me that question, because if you know how to do it, you know a lot of Kabbalah. And then you know the answer already. But if you think that you know how to do it and you're asking this type of question, then I'll say to people, those people don't do it, because obviously you don't know. But the people that do know how to do it, even those, Tamim Tiyah B'Hashem Elokecha, we don't follow this. We don't look at you don't send the names to the Kabbalists. You don't.
But let's say you're not doing it for somebody else, but just that in general, if let's say it interests you, does that make Hashem upset? Is that
So I had this question recently asked to me: if you're allowed to go and you're allowed to study, you're allowed to study these type of things. So most of these things that the knowledge that comes from nowadays, it comes from either it comes from secular sources, which could either be true or false. If it's true, then it comes from black magic, which is not allowed to, and if it's false, then you're wasting your time. So the only true sources is from the Kabbalah, and the Kabbalah do not write anything down, especially in languages that you would most people want to understand. I don't know, maybe you do understand Aramaic, but most places you don't understand it. So if you find the source that explains to you how to do it, generally speaking, again, there are a few minute sources in English that rabbis did write down certain books that are kosher, but the majority of sources, stay away from them. Stay away from learning it, stay away from studying it, just deal Tamim Tiyah B'Hashem Elokecha.
When you're talking about anger, is a very fine line between bad anger and normal anger. Everybody gets angry.
Right, because we live in Brooklyn. But I'm saying just generally. No, I am very serious.
Sure, everybody has.
Right, so
get angry
you have to be at a normal level. You're right. Everybody does get angry. So there's rage and there's temper. There is like somebody who's driving and somebody cuts him off and they want to burn their house and their mother's house. And there's somebody who goes and honks them for 2 minutes and then continues on with their life. So like everybody has their own issues, but depending on, there's obviously there's issues and then there's issues. So like what you're comfortable with. Are you okay with a guy that when you come home he's like, receipt, 4 pounds of tomatoes? 4 pounds of tomato, like if that's what you're okay with, then fine. But if you go, it depends. That's stinginess, not really so much anger, combination of anger and stinginess. But when you go, so it's something that you have to be comfortable with. If you're comfortable with a guy and he has an anger issue, then chazak u'boch. If it's something that you could live with, then make only blessings should come on everybody. It depends on your own personal self. But something that you should worry about from what issues do arise, anger. Arrogance, by the way, is the number one issues in marriage problems, where no one's ever wrong, and this one's, so does anger comes? Yes, very much closely connected. Yep, that's why I say anger. Yeah.
Stinginess, arrogance, and anger.
Well, I just said that off the top of my head. That's one of the things that you should say from. Okay, good.
General.
Yes.
What if he's addicted to smoking? Is that like a red flag?
Wait, which smoking? Oh, okay. That's an easier question. Okay. If you're comfortable, if you're okay with smelling, it's unhealthy. It's something that's going to affect you and affect the kids. So.
That's not being picky, right? If you say I can't live with a smoker.
Yeah, I don't think that's picky. If you can't smell it and you gag every time, then it's not a problem. Thank God you asked me that question. That's an easier question. Good? Okay, Hazakabo, thank you. Thank you for hosting. Thank you for coming. Oh, this is also important. Thank you. It's one of the reasons why we did this class. We have a class every Thursday, for women at BJX at 1601 Quentin Road, at 16th and Quentin, right over there. So whoever wants, Sapir could add you to the chat. There's a 8 o'clock. So she could add you to the chat for the girls' Thursday classes.